on my phone because the last 2 lives I've done on my laptop, the laptop decided it didn't want to work. So here we are, we're live. You'll let me know when you come in. I thought I would come in a few minutes early to sort out any issues we have with connection or anything. And so you join in when you're ready, and I will send the link out because it gets published almost as soon as I go off air. This gets published normally. So if you're worried that you can't watch the live tonight, obviously we'd love to have you if you can join. Then you can watch it back at your convenience whenever you like. And the link I will always put in the first comment down in the video. I will also put the link in the description box so that you can watch it when you like, and share it with friends. I hope you'll do that. So here I am in Italy. The subject tonight is we're going to talk about living in Italy and the language issue. So a common denominator every time I help someone move to Italy or help someone settle here is the language issue comes up. But while we're waiting for everyone to join us, I just want to show you the Easter remains. I mean, these are kind of Versace colors. It's a lovely purple and gold, these lovely purple and gold tulips, which have been an absolute joy during the Easter. I hope you can see them they're kind of against the light here, but they're stunning. The colors are absolutely amazing. Can you see that? Let me know down in the chat box if you can see me and if you're connecting. But anyway, these two colors, which I call the Versace colors because they're kind of gold and that rich purple, have been keeping me company here, well, since Easter time, really. I have about 24 of them. They're stunning. And so they'll be my co-presenters this evening. You can drop down in the box down there and let me know if you like them and if you can hear me and everything's well. Won't you do that? Because it helps me a lot if I can see in the chat box. And then the roses have started, and this one is particularly beautiful. It's big rose, kind of with coral and this lovely pink. So it's a kind of mixture of coral, orangey and pinky. Isn't it stunning? Yeah. When the roses start, I'm always happy. So let's get into what we're going to talk about this evening. So I've been covering some kind of more touristy stuff from Italy, places I've visited, places I've been, things I've been doing, my town where I live, because people always ask me, please, do a video of that. And I have put up some short videos of that. You can go and watch it whenever you feel like. It's up on my channel, either under the shorts or under my normal channel. I think I put up some really amazing. I live in the most beautiful part of Italy on Lago Maggiore, and I try to put up as much content as I can of how beautiful the place is where I live. But I'm going to make a longer video. I've been busy with so many other things, but I really have to get down to editing. I know. And I need to make a longer video and join together and edit some of the amazing material that I have over the last couple of months of my town, of some of the amazing Italian antique markets I've been to, some of my travels around. I'm going to edit that into a nice video for you to watch. So I guess that'll be up in about 2 weeks' time. So don't forget. And won't you go and like the video right now if you're joining us? And if you would like to put your name down in the chat and the city from which you're joining us, that would be wonderful too. So anyway, I think it's time to start. I need to get rid of that. We're not having background music. And so, yes, put your city down in the chat box if you can. Oh, Giovanni, ciao. Where are you from? Where are you joining from, Giovanni? Nice to have you. Don't forget to like the video. So tonight we're talking about, I have Drishaj from Morocco. How lovely. Thank you for joining us. So we have people joining from all over the world, and tonight we're talking about conversation. Christian Legui said hi. Christian, where are you from? France, maybe? Where are you joining from? Always let me have your city. I've got Valk from Italy. Christian is in Italy. Wonderful. Valk said hi. Okay, so I'd love to hear which city you're from. So as I just mentioned before, I showed you my roses from the garden and my tulips, and we'll be talking about living in Italy tonight, what it means, whether the language is not having the language or having the language, being able to speak Italian or not speak Italian will influence your visa application or will influence you settling here and being happy here. And we need to talk about that. Oh, everyone's joining from Italy. Valk official. How lovely. Tell me which city in Italy. I'd love to know. So anyway, if you're joining for the first time tonight, my name is Amanda. I have lived in Italy for 23 years. I speak fluent Italian, and I've helped many people come and live in Italy from Rome. Ah, ciao. Ciao from the beautiful eternal city, Roma. And so tonight I want to touch on something that's very close to my heart. I've covered these subjects many times in the past, but this subject always comes up again and again and again. And it's the number one question people ask me. Will I be able to settle there and be happy there without the language? Ciao, 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 ciao. Lots of chows. So lovely to have my followers join me from Italy, wherever you're joining from. I'd love to have you. Please go up and like the video right now. It helps. Unfortunately, our Pope died. Yes. Isn't that sad? The funeral was rather beautiful. I just watched moments of it with all the politicians and the people paying their respects. But it was good to see Giorgia Meloni there. And it's Rome is the most beautiful city, and St. Peter's is just, it belongs to the world, really, doesn't it? So, yes. So, from Italy tonight. Okay, so I've been covering in the last few weeks. I've been discussing how many people are moving to Italy, want to move to Italy, why they want to move to Italy, and what stops them from moving to Italy, and what perhaps makes their move to Italy more successful. So that's what we're going to cover tonight. And thank you all for joining me. If you can't watch this back now, but you watch back later, you can leave me a comment with a question or a comment, or I always welcome any comments, whether or not you agree with what I say. And I will endeavor to answer your question, make your question clear. And if you would like to ask me a question in private about residence in Italy, I always leave my email in the description box. So you can always find all the details you need to contact me in the description box. So let's get going. Okay. So as of, let's say March, Italy changed the law. If you're not aware, there's a video, I'll put it up there. Italy changed the law on dual citizenship. And so now, before you could acquire citizenship via blood from great-grandparents and even great-great-grandparents, the law has now changed to direct grandparents or parents. So in other words, your grandparent or your parent should have been born in Italy, and you should have been born before they gave up their citizenship by naturalizing in another way. I'm not going to cover this subject tonight, but this is the background of what we're talking about. This has made a lot of people very nervous about whether their plans to come to Italy are going to happen or not. And lots of people are very anxious, very upset, and actually, going online and saying, Italy's, against them and all this kind of stuff. It's not. But anyway, that's how they feel. And I understand some people are rather upset. I'm just trying to help my co-presenters, these beautiful Versace color tulips, be in the picture with me. So, yes, so that's the background of what I'm talking about tonight. But what I'm really going to talk about tonight is the majority of the people who want to come and live in Italy on the long term, in other words, want permanent residence and apply via the elective visa, which requires a passive income because you cannot work in Italy, is the fact that without language skills, it's really, really difficult. So I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you are wealthy, what do I mean by wealthy? What I mean by wealthy is you don't have to watch your pennies every month. You don't have to think, oh, how am I going to afford a rent? I'm going to have to get a cheap rental if I come to Italy. Maybe you own a home in Italy and now you don't just want to come on holiday to see that home. You want to come here and live, and that's great. That's okay. You can certainly try. There are lots of people trying. What can make your application advance or be, let's say, unsuccessful? Well, the number one thing is that you should have realistic ambitions about how much money you can live on in Italy. So people are always talking about on Facebook groups and random groups who really don't know much of the reality of Italy, that, oh, it's so much cheaper than America. And lots of people are running away from America because they don't like the leadership and they just claim that they've always wanted to live in Italy. That's okay. The problem is that, and they go online and they find out that Italian salaries are much lower than anywhere else, and that Italian cost of rents and living is lower than anywhere else. Well, actually, if you work this all out properly, and you're earning what's considered a decent salary in Milan, it's all commensurate. Yes, you may be able to find a place that's cheaper than where you had in Miami or New York or Boston or wherever it is you're living in the States, or Chicago. But your incoming is going to be so much less. And another thing people misread is they say, well, if all these Italians who are earning so little money live a decent life, they can go and buy fresh vegetables and food. Yes, we have that. We have lovely markets. We have we have the famous healthcare, but we pay for that healthcare. We pay enormous tax, and there's no way to escape tax in Italy, even if you come here on an elective visa, and even if you live in a 7% area, you're still going to pay tax, and you're going to pay tax in all sorts of ways. So I want to clear up all the nonsense, because every day on YouTube, I see people talking about living in Italy, living in France, and they have no idea of the realities of actually living there, what tax you have to pay in order to get on the system, and in order to be able to be on a list to go to a hospital and have a procedure or to see a specialist. So it's all fine and good to say yes, but it's so much cheaper than America. And in America, you can be bankrupted if you take an ambulance to the hospital, all of that. So, but there's a lot of emotions tied up in this talk. Okay. So I like to talk about facts. And when people are moving from one country to another, you need to have facts. Right? You need to have accurate facts, and you need to have someone helping you, perhaps, or you need to be talking to somebody who is not tied up in the romance of the thing. Look, I talk about the romance of Italy every day. I live in Italy. I've traveled every corner of Italy. I know all about the romance of Italy, the beauty of Italy, all the wonderful things that can happen in Italy. But I've also seen the other side of Italy. I live in the reality of the other side, what it's like to go to government offices and get pieces of paper and get things done, what it's like to become an Italian citizen, which I am, via naturalization, because I had no Italian roots, and pay taxes for years, work here, grind and work and make a living here. I know what it costs. One of the things that many people overlook is they say, look at all these Italians. Apparently the postman and the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, they don't earn much money, but they seem to live an okay life. What people don't understand is Italians live as a family unit, even if they're in separate buildings, even if one of them's upstairs and the parents upstairs and the younger family are downstairs, which is a very common way to build in Italy, is a 2-level thing. The older ones are generally on the ground floor because it's easier for them without stairs. And then the younger family, when they build a family, they go upstairs. And so they keep it within the family. That is one option. There could be even 3 levels, of course. But they live in a community way, and not only just brothers and sisters, but maybe between the cousins. And if you look at this is especially true of the south of Italy, but it's true of the whole of Italy too. And okay, a lot of people leave the south to come to Milan to get a job, and they have to get an apartment, rent an apartment. But a lot of families are working as a unit. That means that the first family, the baby boomers, the people who are now in their 70s, they had the benefit of all the property increase in Italy. They worked all their lives, they worked very hard all their lives, and they had the benefit of buying property when it was really cheap. And if they bought in a big city or near a big city, that property has probably gone up 40 times in value. Yeah. So they are the recipient of that. They can loan, okay, maybe they can't sell it because it's their only home, but they can loan money against it. And they can help the younger family, and they do in many cases. So what you don't see if you're a foreigner looking in and saying, well, how do these other young Italians afford it? Their parents are sponsoring them, many of them. Some of them don't get a job, can't find a job, 30, 35. They may have even been to university, but they're still grinding along, and they haven't found a job that pays enough to get their own apartment, to buy their own apartment, or to start a family and have children. And the mother and the father probably bring that they eat over at their parents' probably 4 or 5 or sometimes every day. So in some way, this is kind of communal living, in that the parents who obviously had a greater income to spend and are now retired and drawing a pension, okay, they've got their house and they are financing, in many, many cases, the new generation. And let's be honest here, Italy has a sharply declining birth rate because these young people just can't see how they can have more than one child or have any child at all. So the replacement rate is not working. But what a lot of tourists who want to come and live here, and foreigners who've visited here a few times and thought about living here, they look at these normal Italian families and they don't see that this whole thing has been financed by the parents who took loans against their property that they've had, since the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And the growth years of the 80s, 90s, 2000s, before 2008 crash, which obviously affected Italy like everywhere, the property was just growing. And they probably paid 30,000 for a house that's now worth 300,000. So what I'm trying to say to you is, all is not what it seems. But I promised tonight to talk about the language issue. So by far the greatest group who want to come to Italy or France and many other European countries, which all have more or less the same requirements for the elective visa. In France, it's called the inactive. It's the same visa. It has more or less the same requirements. France may have a slightly smaller. Hi. Shout out from New Jersey. Are you in New York at the moment or in New Jersey? I noticed, Conan, that you've sent comments before. Welcome. I'm glad you're joining us on the live. So as I have already mentioned, you might have to go back and watch this later and leave me a comment when we're offline. As I've mentioned, when people analyze coming to Italy and living here and what the cost of living will be, they fail to notice that, the older generation are financing this generation. And as I say, if you're wealthy, what do I mean by wealthy? If you can afford a house, if you bought a house in Italy and you just want to spend more time in it, you don't want to just come for the 90 days, you want to maybe retire here, live here. Don't be fooled that the cost of living is going to be so cheap that you're just going to be living in the lap of luxury. So, as I said, don't underestimate that a lot of normal Italians here in Italy are being financed by their parents because they've never found a decent job, even if they went to university. Okay, so there's that. But let's say you get a healthy pension and you are able to apply for the elective visa because you meet the requirement. It's about 66 for a couple. I know there are lower figures quoted, but some of the embassies, some of the consulates haven't updated. If you, as a couple, as a single person, it's about 32 annually that you need to earn. Passive. In other words, if you sit on your hands and you don't go to work tomorrow, how much money is going to hit your bank account? That is what passive income means. It means from pension, social security, properties you may earn that you earn dividends on. Passive income, that if you literally sit at home and do nothing, that money's coming in. That's what passive income means. A lot of people get confused about passive income. They think I'm going to start a YouTube channel and come to Italy and then I'm going to be fine because I'm not working. Well, you are working, yes. And possibly you will not get past the elective visa application because they need to see a passive income regularly coming to your bank account of that amount. Okay. But I digress. The thing I wanted to talk about is that by far the largest group of people wanting to come to Italy are women who are single. Either they are divorced and wanting to start a second life, or they are widowed and have a pension and want to come and have a second life here. They probably hate the administration that's in power in America at the moment, but they could be Australian, they could be from anywhere, and they are. So who are these women? They are mostly 60 plus. Some of them towards 70. They've gathered together their lifetime's work. They've earned a good pension, and they want to come to Italy and live cheaply because perhaps they can't live the life they want in America, or they don't want to live the life they have in America. So I would say to you, and I deal with these people every day who write to me and ask me, so I know of what I speak. I would say to you, if you're comfortable that you can afford to fly home once or twice a year, that you can afford to take a holiday, that you have enough passive income coming in that you don't ever have to worry about paying the rent or a huge gas bill for, a winter fuel or all that sort of stuff. If you have money, if you have expendable income, then you'll probably be fine. But if you think that you're going to come here and just scrape by and live like an Italian does, you can't. Well, first of all, you need to, once you get here with your elective visa, you need to get your permesso di soggiorno. That can take up to a year to get. I've got clients and friends at the moment who've been waiting 7-8 months, and they came in, and they're still waiting to get a permission to stay. Anyway, I come back to the money thing. Do not be fooled, whether you're going to France, whether you're going to Italy. I'm talking about Italy tonight. That you can come here and live a very cheap life, just buying a couple of vegetables. You may say, well, I don't eat very much and I don't eat. That's fine. You as a human being are going to want to go out in the beautiful piazza occasionally and have a lovely meal and have a glass of wine and enjoy the conversation happening around. And I'm glad I mentioned conversation because that's what this post is about, conversation. So The most common question I get is, do I need Italian? Well, this is very simple. None of the questions that I get asked every day are as simple to answer as this one. Yes, you do. So if you're telling me that you go on Duolingo, whatever app it's been, and you've played around in Italian a little bit and you've got a tiny little bit of Italian, and you think that that's going to be sufficient, it isn't. Please go up and like the video. Go up right now. You can like the video right now. That would be great. Thank you. It's not going to be enough. You need to speak Italian if you're going to live here. I mean, you may have visited and you may find that the Italians are very friendly and they ciao, 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 and you think you're taking part in daily life. You're not taking part in daily life. You have no idea what's going on in the background of what's being said. But you can manage to order some food, and that's all great. And I'm thrilled for you for that. But you need language skills. So this very weekend, I watched a couple of people who are vlogging, who are visiting France at the moment and Italy. And what came up, and they are both single women who decided to start a YouTube channel. This is the normal progression. Started a YouTube channel to talk about they want to go and live in France, they want to go and live in Italy. And they arrived here, and the realities hit them after a month or 6 weeks because they just decided, oh, maybe they won't get the visa, maybe they're not earning enough. And by the way, YouTube income doesn't count, no. Unless you're earning millions, in which case you can come in on another visa. I mean, if you're the hottest thing on YouTube, perhaps you have, dividends and things, so you have other passive income. But YouTube alone isn't going to help you really. So they start this channel, and I watched this couple this evening talk about this. So they got rejected for their Italian elective visa. When you first moved to Italy, what was your Italian language skills? 0. You need to go back and watch my first video on my channel, Conan the Barbarian. You need to go back and watch that first video of mine. It's linked up right there on my channel. I couldn't even say ciao. That was 25 years ago. And within 2 years, I was fluent. My very first job I got within 6 weeks, and I had to speak Italian. So I was forced to speak Italian. People who come here who are retired, they're not forced to speak Italian. I had to learn Italian, but I was younger then. I was 40. So in answer to your question, yeah, if you've been here on holiday and you think everything's fine and everything's great, that's okay. I'm happy for you. But do not fall into the trap of thinking that you're going to come here and you're not going to learn the language. Or you're going to play around on some language app. No, you need a full-time language coach who's pushing you and shoving you, and you're paying for those lessons so that you are motivated. I've been teaching English to Italians for 22 of those 23 years. And believe me, I know how hard it is to learn another language. And these are people who've been studying English full-time at school for their whole school career, from the age of 4 years old until they are 19 or 20. And now English is required to go to many courses in university. So even though they've been studying for all these years, they still panic when they actually have to speak the language, not think about speaking the language, but actually speak and communicate. So I understand very well how difficult it is to acquire language skills. But I'm telling you, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. Hi, Ayanopi. I don't know. Let us know which city you're joining from, please. Let us know your city. If you do not have Italian language skills, you're not going to be happy. Even if you have enough money to buy a house, even if you have enough money to meet the 66,000 annually passive income that you have stashed away and coming into your bank account every month, who are you going to talk to? After the first 5 weeks, when you've gone around the beautiful piazza and enjoyed your new little home and gone to the market and bought vegetables and whatever, and the Italians help you with a bit of English here and there, you're going to get down to the nitty gritty that you have to switch on your electricity, you have to switch on your gas supply, you have to go to the comune and register. None of these people speak English. They might be able to say hello. They might be able to say goodbye. They might be able to say 3 English words. But if you fool yourself that you're going to be able to come to Italy, live here, and you cannot speak Italian, please, please, as I already mentioned, as was asked of me earlier, you can go up and watch my first video. It's linked on my site, my story of how I came to Italy, how difficult it was to learn Italian. I had to work. I came to Italy on a temporary job, but that was 23 years ago. I was European Union, so I'm not American, I'm not non-European Union. I got a temporary job, and that job required Italian from day one. So I was forced to learn Italian. And I've been fluent since 2 years of living here. How do you find English-speaking doctors? With difficulty and a lot of money. Is the answer to the question. But if you go back and watch my videos, I've covered these things over and over again. I'm not saying there aren't private doctors. You can find a private doctor in Italy. And if you live in Rome or Milan, you can find an English-speaking doctor. It will be an American doctor. There's very few of them, but it's not impossible. It's going to cost a fortune. It's not impossible. But I'm not talking about just your medical needs, just your requirement. You need to communicate. You need to chat. If you're not part of a couple, so probably what's more successful is if you're part of a couple, at least you have each other. You can communicate. You can go through the difficult times and all the lovely times too. There's going to be lovely times. But if you're alone, and that is by far the majority of people coming, people who have cashed in their pensions, they are 70, they've taken their social security and their 2 pensions, or they were in the military and they've taken all their pensions and they've come to Italy, who are you going to communicate with? Who are you going to go out with on a Friday night? Who are you going to go watch movies with? Yeah, you can spend time at home. That's all well and good. But how are you going to socialize if you can patch together a couple of words of Italian? Italians can't speak English. The huge majority of them can speak 3 words. And even then, they prefer, when they're socializing, to be with their own people. Of course, everyone does. So this illusion that you can come to Italy, I'm not saying you can't come to Italy with no skills. I'm saying from day one, you need to have an Italian coach who's serious, that you're paying, and that forces you on a daily basis to spend a couple of hours of full immersion, that you go out to eat with Italians in a group as part of these English lessons, that you register to do maybe the Italian different exams, the A1, the initial one, the A2. If you can't do this and you're not prepared to do this because you believe that, or you think, well, you know, my grandparents were Italian, my father was Italian, I've got a little bit of Italian, why should I have to learn the language? Well, you don't. Nobody's going to force you. Of course, if you later on want to apply for certain things, language is going to be a requirement. Like if you want to naturalize and get Italian citizenship eventually, you're going to have to pass a language exam, whether it's Italy or France, by the way, and just about every other country in Europe. So yes, a lot of Americans in particular have Italian roots. by their grandparents, by their parents. Maybe even they were born in Italy and then went away to live in America. Australia, South Africa, Italians dispersed all over the world, after the wars. And so, yes, but you can't, this is the one thing you can't get around. This is the one thing that money is not going to change for you. What am I saying? What am I saying? You can't buy a house if you have money here and have a lovely time. Yes, you can do all of that. You can have a glorious time. You can take a beautiful boat out on the Amalfi. You can, wherever you want to live, you're going to pay your tax and you're going to live, and you can have a beautiful life in Italy. Really beautiful. I can highly recommend it. I'm simply saying, eventually you need to socialize. Eventually, maybe you go home twice a year to see your family. You're going to miss them. People say, yeah, but I don't really mind. I was speaking to a couple that started a YouTube channel, and I think they're quite sort of delusional, quite frankly, because they've got, I don't know, 10 grandchildren, and their children are grown up, and now they want to come, live in Italy, and they believe that, everything's going to be fine. They're going to need to see those grandchildren. Somebody's going to get sick. Somebody's going to need help. Okay, the kids can come and visit them here. My children, who are adults, I have grandchildren, have come to visit me here. Okay, but these are all things that require money and time. And if you are coming here to live on a budget and you can't go home 2 or 3 times a year, or maybe go home and stay there for a period, you may lose your right to live here because you need to be here a certain time to qualify for your visa. So what I'm saying to you is, the way that you can make your life a lot easier, if you are right now waiting to retire, so you have enough money so that you can actually go on retirement, you can have enough money to justify your visa to come and live in Europe, start learning the language. If you want to go to France, start learning French from a French teacher that you pay, who holds you to account, that actually helps you to socialize in French. Socialize with French people. Join the Alliance Française where you live. And the same with Italy. Do not kid yourself that you're just going to land here and everything's going to be fine. I am a living testament to this. I came in my 40s, and believe me, within 3 weeks, I had to get a job and I had to work and I had to learn Italian the hard way. Yes. And so I was fluent within that first year, and I've been fluent ever since, by the way. Anyway, my point is that you can't, the other thing that people often say is, yes, but I can make friends with expats. There's lots of expats. Well, you're not going to want to hang around with expats 24 hours a day. They may be couples, you may be single, you want to meet locals. I suppose you can. And if you have money and you can have a break here and then, when things get you down, I guess you can just hang around with expats who speak your language. But, this is not the kind of life I want to live. But I guess for some people, it's a possibility. But sooner or later, don't you want to embrace the culture where you came to live? If you are so in love with Italy, if you are so in love with France, why do you want to change these people whose culture you admire from afar? You now want them to become more American. I mean, I see this over and over and over. I'm watching a woman this week who's complaining that the food isn't very American in France, and the people that she's hiring an apartment with have been very kind to her. They came and fetched her from the railway station, but she doesn't like the fact that, the French don't speak English. I try to tell you, you're in France. She said in the beginning, this person who decided, she couldn't make the visa. She couldn't, what's the right word I'm looking for? She didn't qualify for the visa according to her income, and she didn't have passive income. So she decided to go to France anyway just to live and see if she can just get away with it. You can't. I mean, with everything is digital now, so the borders have been put back across Europe. The borderless society of Europe, it's all back. The borders are back. Germany have executed their borders. France have executed their borders. Italy have put back their borders. So if you're crossing from one European country to the other, you're going to cross a border. And if you're not European Union, where you can show your ID card, and that's sufficient, there's no way to fool the system anymore. 2025, you will need an entry visa to come here, just like we need to go to America. Okay, it's easily applied for and it doesn't cost a lot of money, but still, there are traces of you coming and going. And there's no freedom. And if you decide that you want to come here on an elective visa, you've got a week to plug in. I think it's 8 days. You've got to plug in with the police here, the immigration police, and then the countdown starts for them to issue your first permesso di soggiorno. And then after a year, and there's all sorts of requirements you've got to meet. It's not just a matter of I land here and then everything falls into place. It's hard work. It's difficult, and there's going to be doubts. So you need to be 100% sure it's what you want to do, so that you don't land up 6 months later going back to America with your dreams in tatters and your pocketbook very, very battered after spending all that money. So I absolutely suggest that if you are thinking about doing this in 5 years' time, and I have lots of people writing to me who are thinking about doing this in 5 years' time, please start learning the language. French is a beautiful language. There's Alliance Française all over the world. Plug in, get a language teacher, put your money where your mouth is. Do not be one of the Americans and other tourists. I meet a lot of Americans who come to France and say, why won't the French speak English to me? Why should they? It's their country. They're not your language teacher. The French are very, very, very friendly. I visit France regularly. Italians will help you. They will be friendly. But you want to be in their country. You want to be part of their culture. Why should they speak English to you? Maybe they can, maybe they can't. A lot of them can't. I have 5 more years of work. Great. So here's an example, Conan. I don't know what your real name is, but hey, great. Start, get serious. Go, if you are serious about this, go and find an Italian language coach, a proper one, not some cousin or auntie that's going to let you off the hook, that you have to sit down with a couple of hours a week, preferably an hour a day, or at least something like that, or 3 times a week, that you have paid for, and get your language skills. It will make such a lot of difference, because what you can then do is you can start watching Italian programs, little Italian film clips, and it'll make you understand so much more of the Italian culture, so that if you do come to Italy, and if you do, I'm here to help you. And if you have any questions, as I mentioned, you can write to me via my channel, via my email, which I put in the description box. Please start making those preparations, make the financial preparations sure. And if you want to ask me about housing and buying a house or whatever, I have lots of contacts throughout Italy, in every corner of Italy. I can't get involved in tax matters, but I have excellent tax contacts who can answer all your tax questions. Another thing you mustn't ignore, the taxability issues that are going to come up if you retire in Italy. You need to prepare yourself well. So well done. If you've got 5 more years, you've got time to prepare. Learn the language so that at least when you land here, you can have a small and short conversations. Also, find out about tax. So I repeat again, please let me know. There's lots of videos. You can work your way through my playlist. But if you go back and watch my very first video, which is linked first on my site, I'm wearing a green dress, and it's my start in Italy, my story in Italy. Go and watch it and see how the progression happened up to today. At some stage, I will do an update about the recent time, but I have also put up a video, what you need to know, the things that I've learned in Italy. Just work your way through the playlist. I've covered all these things a million times before. So anyway, for this live tonight, I wanted to focus on this, and I wanted to ask the question, what would you give up to come and live in Italy or France? So I want to hear from you down in the comments. What would you give up to come and live in Italy and France? Are you being realistic about not being able to see your family? I don't know. Maybe you don't have family close by. Maybe you're just a single, and you don't have anyone else to consider. You can just think about yourself. But I want to hear from you in the comments. If you watch this back later, please leave me a comment. I enjoy the comments. Please don't forget to like the video. If you're watching me for the first time, my name is Amanda. I live in Italy. I talk about living in Italy, enjoying Italy, Italian culture, Italian food, all those lovely things. But I would ask you one thing. If it's your first time watching, please tell me down in the comments when you watch this back. You can, if you just want to register with an email, you don't have to give your real name. You can give whatever name you want on YouTube, but you have to be registered with an email, obviously. I'd love to hear from you. I want to hear all your comments. Even if your comment doesn't agree with what I'm saying, it's okay. I want to hear from you. This is a conversation. It's a live conversation. So I love to hear it. And yeah, I just want to share with you how frustrated I felt this week when this person who, by the way, I tried to give advice to about what to do in France, just went to visit Dijon. She was very unhappy where she was down, towards the southwest of France. And then she's moved up by train to Dijon. And now she's in Dijon and she's been there 3 days. And there's not a single thing that she's happy about or excited. I can tell you, I've done 2 trips last year and I'm bouncing off the walls with excitement. There's so much to see. There's new buildings, there's beautiful parks, there's flowers, there's people. I'm listening to beautiful French being spoken. I'm going to night markets. I'm buying produce and practicing my few little words of French. I'm having an absolute ball. Even if I'm staying in a modest place, in a small room with a bed, what do you need? What do you need? You need a bed and a bath, basically. And if that doesn't make you happy, maybe you shouldn't have left America. Maybe you should have stayed in America where you know everything and you can complain to all your buddies about Trump or whatever else is getting on your nerves. Maybe you shouldn't actually expect to go to France and nothing excites you. And even when the French invite you over for lunch, which I thought was very, very great, because the French don't let you in easily. Obviously, they don't want to, just invite you over for lunch because probably you won't be able to communicate. Anyway, these people, the person who she's renting the room from, invited her to lunch, and her argument is she didn't enjoy it at all. She didn't want to go because they promised they could speak English and their English isn't good enough. And I'm thinking, you're in France. You kept saying that you could speak French. You could speak a bit of French. You've been there 6 weeks. Haven't you improved your French a little bit that you can't spend, 2 hours over lunch? The landlady so kindly involved you in French life, which many people never get to do. And you're complaining because they fooled you that the English, it's unbelievable. I find myself, please don't be one of these Americans. Please don't be one of these Americans. Please don't be one of these Australians. Please don't be one of these English people who believe that, the French have to bend over backwards, or the Italians have to bend over backwards to make you feel comfortable. You came here as a tourist. You've loved the culture. You've been telling all your friends how you want to live in Italy. You make the effort. Even if you can only say buongiorno or ciao or, whatever. Practice the names in the evening. Practice the names of the vegetables so you can go to the market and you can order, at least know the name of the vegetable when you're pointing. I just don't understand. I mean, I watched this program of this woman complaining once again. The trains were too crowded. She's not happy here. She's not happy there. She's not happy with the safety. Who invited you to go to France, in fact? France is the most visited of all the countries in Europe. It might even be in the world. I don't know. I know it's in Europe. It's extremely popular. I'm not even just talking about Paris, people who go to visit the Eiffel Tower. Italy has millions of people coming here every year. We have over-tourism, in fact, in some of the bigger tourism centers like Venice, Rome, Florence. Everybody wants to come. But if you're not prepared to make a tiny little bit of effort to at least try and speak Italian, or at least just smile a lot, even if you can't understand a word. Why are you coming here? Why can't you make a better life at home in America with 51 states? Can't you go and find somewhere there that suits you? Because believe me, if you come here, you bring yourself with you. So if you're not happy there and everything's getting on your nerves there and you're not happy and you're miserable, coming to France or coming to Italy or coming to Portugal, coming to Spain is not going to change anything. You're going to be under stress because you can't communicate. So make it easy on yourself. Just try. When I'm in France, I go into the bakery and I'm in heaven. And I just stand there half the time drooling, trying to practice all the names of the cakes so I can order one. Conan, how is the illegal immigration situation in my area? The illegal immigration situation in Italy, there's no work in Italy and there never has been. As long as I've lived here. So the illegals generally migrate up Italy into France, go to England so they can get asylum in England. So the legal situation in Italy is spoken about a lot. There was a stage before we had Meloni as president where the boats were coming in loaded every day from the whole of the Middle East and, up from Africa. And they were streaming into Italy. We do have some migrant labor that picks the tomatoes in the south and works in the south. There is illegal immigration in Italy. I'm not saying there isn't. But generally, Italy is not a desired destination. Obviously, they land in Italy because that's their first land border. And then they work their way up Europe if they can. Maybe they do odd jobs. Maybe they sell drugs. I don't know what they do. But they generally work their way. And, Italy has fought long and hard with the European Union that they should share the responsibility. Just because Italy is their first point of arrival doesn't mean that Italy has to house them, give them medical treatment and everything. But that's been happening for years. From what I hear, the European Union has come to the party a little bit on trying to control it, but their destination is UK. They want to be in UK so they can get asylum, they can get maybe a house if they have children, and they can get on the dole. Whereas Italy doesn't have unemployment for illegals. There's no payment they're going to get here. So, I mean, if they can find their way to get a job, picking vegetables illegally, but it's no life. I mean, there's not enough money to live. I hope that answers your question. Isabella Guzubis, I can't really read your surname. Can I say hi to you? Sure I can. Where are you joining me from? Hi. Where are you joining from, Isabella? Let me know. I like to know which city people are joining from. Welcome. Hi, Isabella. Let me know which city you're joining from. I hope that answers your question, Conan, about the legal immigration. So all the questions about Italy. Any other questions you have? I can't see many likes. Go up and like the video if you've just come in. That'll help me a lot. You can click the like button right there. And if you haven't subscribed, you should, because I publish on Italy every week. And if you've just come in, you can leave me a comment when this goes public. And I just wanted to show you my co-presenters, these beautiful yellow and purple Versace colored tulips that have been with me since Easter. So any other questions you have on Italy, I'm here for them. Let's keep this going. Let's keep this alive, because a couple of people are going to join later. I started a few minutes earlier tonight. Let me know where you're joining from and what time it is where you're joining me from. So I really look forward to hearing from you guys. Look at my beautiful rose from the garden. So thirsty tonight. It's raining outside. I'm drinking water because I'm super thirsty. I walked today right up. There's a beautiful area right up at the rock over my city, and you can see the whole of Lake Maggiore right up to the Alps. It's so beautiful here. So I went for a long walk today because I'm back doing my walking program that I stopped for a few months, and I need to get back on the bandwagon. So Isabella, have you told us yet what city you're joining from? Yeah. So questions are coming in. Let me answer some of these questions. Let's see what questions I can answer for you. Okay, a question I get asked a lot. I'll answer it again because it never seems to be enough. I always get asked this question. How is the healthcare in Italy, and can you access it on the elective visa? Okay. This is a two-part question. Healthcare in Italy, there's a national health service. It's not free. Italians pay tax, a lot of tax. Italy is a very taxed country. I pay tax, everyone pays tax here. Obviously, some people find a way not to pay tax, but I don't know who these people are. I don't know any of them. Some of the mafia maybe don't pay tax, but for everybody that I know, and I know a lot of thousands of Italians, everyone pays tax that I know. And also, when you go to have something done, an x-ray at the hospital or whatever, you pay a ticket, and the ticket is based generally on your income, but there's a standard fee. For example, if you go to see a cardiologist, it'll be about €35, it might be whatever. The point is that when you first come, as I have already mentioned, perhaps I should mention this again. If you come in on the elective visa, you have 8 days to register with the immigration police to plug in here and say you've arrived. And after that, you will start the process of your permesso di soggiorno. Your permesso di soggiorno is required. You need a permission to stay. It will originally be a year. And in that year, you will have to do all of these things, register in your comune. But until you've done all of these things, become a resident, you have no access to healthcare. Obviously, to be part of the elective visa, you have to have bought 1 year of insurance. But this is insurance that covers you in a major accident or whatever. And in that case, your insurance would kick in. But for everyday stuff like going to see the doctor because you have flu or having some dental treatment or whatever, you can just pay privately for this. And I would say it's on a par with most countries. I mean, private care, the dentists are certainly not cheap. it's probably cheaper than America because everything seems to be cheaper than America. But anyway, yeah, you can take care of all of this. But the healthcare, I must say, over the 23 years I've been here, I've had ups and downs. I've needed healthcare. I just recently needed healthcare. And yeah, I made a video about that too. You can go and watch that. So all the questions you have are covered in my videos. You just need to go and watch them. So let me know if you watch this back later and you join us later. I really want to know. I want your questions, and I want you to tell me what you would give up wherever you're living. If you're living in America, Australia, I don't know where you're living. You could be living in Portugal. You could already be in Europe and want to move to Italy. What would you give up to come and live here? Would you give up access to your family regularly? Would you give up, I don't know what you have wherever you live. Would you give up your house so that you would come here and rent and start again? Or would you be able to sell your house and come to Italy and buy something new? Whatever questions you have about all of these issues, I'm here to answer them for you tonight. Tonight is a Q&A, and tonight I'm answering all your questions. So please let me know. Please don't feel that you can't ask questions if you've already asked a few. Let me have your questions, and I am going to be available here. You can leave me a question in the chat box, or later on you can leave me a question, and I'd love you to do that, or just leave me a comment on the actual video when it's published in a few minutes when I go offline. And please like the video and please subscribe. I make these videos for free to help you guys, or for those of you who want to discover more about living in Italy, in Europe in general, in France. I make them for free, and it helps me enormously if you just simply like the video. You can go up right now if you haven't already and like that video, and you can leave me a comment and you can subscribe and then have all your questions answered. So I will link my first video, Conan, also down in the description box so that you can go and watch and see how I started in Italy, see how I learned Italian, see how I got my first job, see how I started living here, see how I built a life here, and see how I eventually naturalized as an Italian citizen. All things that took years of effort, time, and energy. But I couldn't have done any of that without the Italian language. It is the number one priority. So I repeat again, if you are planning to come here, if you have thought about coming to Europe, if you are saving up and waiting for 5, 10, or 15 years for your pension to kick in so you can come on an elective visa, on a passive income, you're waiting for your social security or your pension, your private pension to kick in, start learning the language. Start learning the language. You may feel that you have a heritage from your family of Italian, but if you can't speak fluent Italian, you can't participate in conversations. You can't make your wishes known. You're going to have to go to the comune and you're going to have to register. As I've already said, you're going to have to switch on your utilities. You're going to have to do a whole bunch of things that require more than just going into a restaurant and pointing at food. Because people say to me, hey, I came to Italy on holiday, I just pointed at the food and it was fine, and I managed. Sure, that's great. There are millions of people doing that as we speak here in Italy. Italy's full of tourists right now. The tourist season has started. Here in Stresa is full of tourists. Arona, where I live, is full of tourists. There's just tourists everywhere. And 99% of them can't speak Italian. But they're tourists. So after a week or two, they go home. And so it doesn't grind on them that they're not being understood or that they can't get stuff done, because they're just tourists. So they're going home and then they'll have all the glorious memories and all their keepsakes and their lovely things that they bought in Italy to go home and show their family. Oh, look at this beautiful dress I bought in Italy. Look at the beautiful pasta and olive oil I'm bringing back. Look at all of this. Look at the photos. Look at the lovely things we did in Italy. Look at all the beautiful places we went. It's fabulous. That's what a holiday is about. Living in Italy, different story. You need language skills. You need it. Anyway, so we've gone an hour on this live, which is nice. Thank you for all who joined. Thank you for all your questions. And if you just joined right now, you can go like the video and subscribe to the channel. I cover living in Italy all the time. My name's Amanda. So I'm going to say good night to all of you lovely ones. And thank you for joining in. And goodbye from my co-conspirators, my roses from the garden, which are just starting the season, and the beautiful tulips. So I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to go back and look at my playlist. I'll link the playlist in the description box. I'll put my address in the description box, and see you on the next one. Thank you for joining. Bye. Bye. See you on the next one. Ciao.